All right, let's call the October Steering Committee to order. Can you please take the roll call?
Commissioner Irvin?
Here.
Commissioner Kush?
Here.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Here.
Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Commissioner Stevens?
Here.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Here. Before I get started, I want to make two announcements that I'll be doing as chairman. Number one is I want to get this out and let you know that 41 people have died since July 1st on drug overdose. So I want everybody to know that. The second thing is that Purdue Pharma, which Commissioner Stevens had got us in on the lawsuit against pharmaceutical companies, Purdue Pharma filed bankruptcy. So that is, to me, that's a great thing. But we're also, I talked to the lead attorney, Kenneth Bird, and we're still, and I made sure that we're put on as creditors on the bankruptcy. So, and also there's other firms that are other pharmaceutical companies that are being sued, and we're also part of that. So I just want to announce that. First thing on the agenda is we need to approve the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed the minutes from our last meeting. I actually have a hard copy of it tonight if anyone would like to see it. It's here, but I didn't find anything wrong, and at this time I'd like to move to approval of those minutes.
Commissioner Reed moves to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rather. All those approve? All those say aye? Aye. Oppose? Next agenda. Okay, we have a position open for BZA. We have one applicant, Ms. Gary Farley. Mr. Farley's here. Would you like to say something, Ms. Farley?
Just that, just to let you know, I spent 20 years on the county commission. I spent 4 years on the planning commission, and now I think I spent 5 years on the BZA, and I've enjoyed giving back to the community that's given back so much to me, and with my experience, I feel like I'm qualified to carry on, and I would appreciate your support.
Is there any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we cease nominations for this and elect past Commissioner Farley by acclamation.
We have a motion to cease nominations. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Irvin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Farley.
Thank y'all.
See you at the commission meeting.
Won't let you down.
The next one that we have is elected beer board member. We have one applicant. It is Jerry Sartain. Is Mr. Sartain here?
I am.
Sartain, like to say a few things?
Well, been on the beer board. I put on my application over a decade because I really don't know the years. I currently serve as the chairman, and we don't have a meeting every month, but we have quite a few. And with Lisa's help over there, I think we do a good job. And if y'all think we've done what we're supposed to do, I'd appreciate a reappointment.
Do we have any questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we send Mr. Sartain to the full commission with a positive approval.
Second.
We have a motion. Second by Commissioner Rather, sending to the commission. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Sartain. See you at the meeting.
Thank you very much.
The next one we have is a beer board alternate. We had nobody apply. If anybody wants to apply, they need to get the application in to Rachel, and we'll put that off till next month. We had 2 vacancies on Code Enforcement Appeals Board. We have, let's see, we have just one applicant, Joe Machado. Did I say it right?
Sure.
Is he here?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to say something, sir?
Sure. I've been a member of the Codes Board for probably 3 terms now, and I'm also a member of the BZA, and actually I retired from Nissan, and the main reason I came up here was just to try to give something back to the community, and I appreciate a reappointment.
Is there any questions? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Mr. Masoto to the board. By acclamation.
Second.
We have a second? By Commissioner Kush.
Okay.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations. See you at the meeting.
Thank you.
Now, we have another vacancy for BZA, but we had no applicants. So I will be turning that over, putting that on next month. So if anybody's interested in being on the BZA, they need to get an application in 1 week before the next meeting. All right. The next thing on our agenda is the proposed change to the current policy on tobacco use. We had asked Sonia Henderson to do some more work on this and to get a little bit more information to us. And come on up, Sonia. And I asked her to look into this more and to give us more information. So are you prepared, Sonia? You ready to go?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go ahead and you go.
Okay. So at the last meeting, we talked about several different scenarios. We talked about having a smoking policy that included vaping and other forms of tobacco usage, nicotine usage and otherwise, and to make a policy that the employees would be off the clock if they were going to smoke. So that was one of the scenarios that was presented the last meeting. And then we also discussed kind of a spin-off of that of what would it look like if we went to a smoke-free campuses, where they couldn't smoke on any of the properties within the county. And so several of those things were tabled. You got, each of you wanted some additional information as it relates to that. So I went back and researched the implementation the state did in order to make a smoke-free campus and what all that entailed. There was some expense with that, and the biggest opportunity that was presented to me was how do you monitor and police that. At the last meeting, you may recall, and I don't know if Sheriff Fitch, was here, happened to be here at the last meeting, and the state had originally put in that they were going to give citations. The first warning was $50, the second was $100, the second was $200, those type things. And so the sheriff mentioned at that meeting that he really did not have the resources and manpower to police smoking, for lack of a better way. So when you look at implementing smoke-free campuses, you can, if we went from the approach of the honor system where we were saying, we're respectfully asking you not to smoke, and then just asking people to leave, that's one scenario versus the other. So what that would entail is, would be costly because we would have to make signage. You end up having to have signage on all corners of your property, on every door that enters the building. You have to have flyers. You have to take out notices in the newspaper to educate the public and also the general public and also your employee population. So that's extensive and it's very expensive. The next thing that we looked at is if we just did the smoking policy to where the employees who wish to smoke were off the clock. And we said, what would that look like for our employees? Well, some of our departments don't clock out to be on the clock for lunch because of the nature of their business, and it's our public safety departments. So when I talk about public safety, I'm talking about the Sheriff's Office, Correctional Work Center, Juvenile Detention, and Fire. Okay, so those departments, because of the nature of their business, they don't clock out, in the ambulance service, excuse me, I forgot one. Because of the nature of their business, they basically eat on the run, for lack of a better way to say it. So that would be one little hiccup. What would that look like to the rest of them? The sheriff did say that he was perfectly fine with implementing some policy, whatever we decided, or the commission decided that, he was okay with that, but it would be something that would have to be implemented over time. Obviously, it is something that if somebody, anyways, I won't get into the weeds about that. So that was one approach that we looked at. So then we started, did get some feedback, as I'm sure several of you received feedback from your employees that are in your districts, and about how they felt about having a no smoking policy. So when we evaluated it, the county currently does not offer or provide breaks under the law. We provide the lunch, which a lunch is an unpaid lunch before they begin their 6th hour of work. a minimum of 30 minutes and up to an hour, and that's designated by the department. So we said, well, what if we allowed for a 10-minute break? Because most people who responded to me says, well, I'm not out there smoking for 15 minutes, because we had talked about that. It takes me 5 minutes to go smoke. So we said, well, if we give them a 10-minute break, that then gives the opportunity for the non-smokers to have the same benefit as a smoker would have. So if somebody who didn't smoke said that they wanted 10 minutes away from their desk to go outside and sit on the bench in front of the courthouse and just take a breather, or walk around the square for a breather, wherever they work, to give them some time, that would be a fair and equitable way. So you allow the smoker to have a 10-minute break if they so chose to smoke into the designated area, but it would also give the non-smoker the opportunity to take a break as well. Now, one of the setbacks to doing this is that then the departments all have to manage when everybody's going to take their break and lunch, which is already hard to coordinate. But right now, as it is, the only people that are really getting to take breaks are the smokers. And so I just wanted to make sure that I presented it in such a way that we had all the areas taken care of. I would recommend that we go with the option to where we provide the 10-minute break. That way, anybody who does smoke, it doesn't, impact them as negatively. We also offer programs and run a campaign to offer programs for anybody who wishes to quit smoking, the smoking cessation. We have lots of free resources for anybody that chooses to. Now, everybody that smokes or dips or vapes or whatever, they may not want to quit. And that's a realization. I made the joke last time that if we were talking about chocolate, it would be hard for me. So I don't know that I necessarily want to give it up forever and ever, amen. So if not, then that's also their right as well. But through our Cigna, anybody who's on our insurance, through our Cigna program, there's all types of resources. The American Heart Association, the American Lung Association both offer free resources. The state of Tennessee offers free resources. So anyone who wishes to quit, would have that opportunity. So that would be my recommendation, is to update our policy to include a 10-minute break for those individuals to smoke. In advance, just to see what that would look like, our current timekeeping system, which is Gory Reagan, was not set up to capture breaks. It was only set up to capture lunches. And so when somebody clocks out for a lunch, it docks their time if they're over 20 minutes, because under the Fair Labor Standards Act, if you take less than a 20-minute break, it's a paid break. It has to be 20 minutes or more to be unpaid. So with doing the 10-minute break, we are testing. Gory Reagan had to write the program and get it set up. Brad Talley reached out to me this morning and told me it was ready for testing. So I offered to test it in the HR department to see how that would work for our employees just to clock out for 10 minutes to make sure that it wasn't docking time. We don't want to have that 10-minute break as an unpaid break. It needs to be a paid break because it's less than the 20 minutes. So we're testing that to make sure it works first before. So I would need a testing period if this is the route that the commission decided that they wanted to go in. Maybe I should stop there. There's additional policies that go hand in hand. So when I started thinking about it, if you impact one policy, it ends up impacting other policies that goes with it. So if we said that employees were going to have to be off the clock to smoke, then we have to adjust the timekeeping and payroll policy to say that it's clocking out and then putting in the break period. Well, if you impact the timekeeping, then you have to go into the rest in the break period policy. And then if we talked about what was going to be the action that comes in place if they don't comply with whatever policy you put in, then we had to make sure that the constructive action policy was up to date. So I've updated all of those policies with some language, put it in draft form. Nick and I both have kind of reviewed them, but we didn't, obviously until it's approved, and if you had comments for changes, that we could do that. But
Let me ask you a question. So, last time we talked in this meeting, we talked about a smoke-free campus.
Correct.
We have a motion to implement a smoke-free workforce program. It was seconded by Mike Cush. And also they wanted to add no smoking on the clock. So gentlemen, that has been approved. And it was also amended, and that was approved. So based on now, you are saying that instead of a smoke-free campus, we have still keep designated areas?
Yes, sir.
And that you're offering that we have a 10-minute break before after lunch, and that's going to be up to the department heads?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, is there any questions? Do I have the motion to invite to rescind the original motion?
That was Steve, was that Steve's?
Steve
original
or-
motion?
Irwin's.
Yeah, I'll rescind my motion to make it a smoke-free
Okay.
environment.
Sir rescinds his motion,
And I'll rescind my second.
and Mr. Cush rescinds his.
Mr. Chairman, probably the right way to do it is if Mr. Urban wants to make a motion to rescind the original motion, and that would be seconded, you'd vote on that motion to rescind.
Okay.
That's correct.
I'll make a motion to rescind my
Original motion.
previous smoke-free environment
As amended?
as amended.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Mike Cush the second. We'll rescind the original motion. All right, let's vote on it. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion is rescinded.
So Sonia, your 10 minutes, is that for the whole day, or is that 10 in the morning, 10 in the afternoon?
For the whole day.
Okay.
So what if they wanted to, so, let me see if I understand this. So you get a 10-minute break, right? And that's on the clock. But if they want to take another break, which would be up to the department head, that's off the clock.
So the way the Fair Labor Standards Act is written, that any break periods that are less than 20 minutes must be paid. So regardless, the first break still would need to clock out. It's just that we're going to pay them. We're not going to dock. We're not going to reduce their pay by 10 minutes for clocking out. It would just be a paid break, but they're going to clock out. Okay? If they, and we could choose, we could choose to do 2 10-minute breaks, one in the morning, one in the afternoon if you decided that was the route you wanted to go. We just wouldn't want, it would still be a paid break because it's less than the 20 minutes, and that's how it works. So it's just,
So is there any way they can play the system and smoke all day long?
the answer to that is yes, because if you have an elected official or a director, their immediate supervisor, who says, well, you've already had your break, but you can go ahead and outside and take another. I mean, obviously, it's going to be up to, somebody has to oversee the policies and procedures that are put in place. So if somebody's not overseeing the policies and procedures that this body puts in place, obviously, they could circumvent that. I mean, it's just like, does that make sense?
It makes sense, it's just the fact that the county doesn't need to be paying somebody to smoke. So the 10-minute break, because of law, we had to give a break. But to my understanding, state law, we don't have to give a break, do we?
That's correct, that's what I was saying. You don't have to. I'm just saying, if you either have to go one way or the other. You either have to say, Rutherford County is going to be a smoke-free employer. That doesn't mean a smoke-free campus. Those are two different things. So a smoke-free campus means that nobody can smoke on county property, inside a building. You can't use tobacco, vaping, any of those things. Or a smoke-free employer means that we don't want our employees to smoke. But the thing is, if you go with a smoke-free employer, you have to put some things in place. This takes over time. You can't just say, on January 1, we're doing this. People have to have some notice and some time. Reached out to some of the other entities to see how they had implemented this program, and like the Department of Health, Hamilton County did a very similar thing with this as being a smoke-free employer, and they grandfathered, which I thought was very unusual, that they grandfathered their smokers, but that in their hiring practices, and I would want this vented, I just learned this today, so don't freak out. Moving forward, the applicant had to acknowledge that they were not a smoker, and they don't hire smokers. So if you smoke, they are saying that they don't hire people who smoke. So that's, I'm not necessarily saying they advocate for that, I'm just saying, I'm just giving you information. So,
So if we adopt this, how much time are you needing to implement this?
to do which one?
Your proposal, to give 10-minute breaks?
I would want us to test the Gory Reagan timekeeping system. So, you know, maybe implement the 1st of January just to make sure. I want to make sure it's not going to dock people's time, because that's where we'll get in trouble. And so that way, if we have any flaws, it gives us some opportunities to correct that. Plus, we've got the draft policies now, and I would want you to read those and then give Nick and I feedback. And obviously, he's going to put his expertise on things that, where I said may or shall or will or may or whatever. So those type things I'd want for you to review them. But I would say a couple of months that we would need to give notice. One, to let them know that it's coming, because you want to get that out there to make sure all the elected officials who follow the county's policy, employee handbook. And that's one of the things that, you know, that everybody needs to remember as well. You know, elected officials have the option to have their own handbook. So this body may put in a policy for no smoking, but the elected official ultimately may have their own employee handbook that says we're going to allow smoking, or they're not even going to mention smoking or whatever. So you've got to be mindful that this may only impact the population that are under the mayor's direction, and the other elected officials could do as they so choose. So I want you to be aware of that as well.
So, scenario, I have to clock out to get my 10 minutes,
Yes, sir.
but I'm not going to be charged my 10 minutes.
Correct.
So, let me play devil's advocate. What if I come to you, what if I'm employed with the county and I say, Sonia, I don't smoke and I don't really need to take a break. Well, what if I just want to come in 10 minutes later or leave 10 minutes earlier? Or I want 10 minutes more for my lunch? Or I say, you know what, 10 minutes a day times so many days a month, basically it's almost 3.5 hours a month you're giving me. Why don't I just take that at the end of the month and not come in the last Friday of the month and get paid for it? Because that's what you're giving me. You're giving me 10 minutes a day times that many days a month. That adds to a half a day of work you're giving me.
That may be a question that somebody asked, but under this, there's not a way. If they take an extra 10 minutes on their lunch, it will be docked because they clocked out and it's over the 20 minutes. The work day is based on when you come in and when you leave. So each department's set up, whether it's 7 to 4, 8 to 4:30, whatever their shift is. So that's already designated. So you don't necessarily want to adjust your hours of work because you don't smoke or because you do smoke, those type things. I mean, we can't say, you know, because you do smoke, I'm going to let you have an additional 30-minute lunch and expand your hours. That's typically not what would happen. Under this, one of the things in the policies that we put in here, it says that that the employee should leave their workstations during their lunch and break in order to receive the full benefit. So, you know, we could say, I mean, that's where you use the will, may, shall terms, that if we're going to say it's your 10 minutes, you're, you know, going to go sit in the break room or, you know, sit outside on the park bench if you want to, whatever. But those are questions that may be asked, but that would not be the intent of this policy. The intent would be that if, in order to allow a smoker to have their time that they need, I mean, that we would also allow the same opportunity for the employee.
Did you get a lot of complaints on this?
I did receive some concerns. Several people called me, talked to me, and the biggest thing was just that either they had been using tobacco products or vaping or whatever for some time, and that's not really, they didn't want to stop, and so that was where the break came into play. On the flip side, I received complaints from employees who didn't smoke that said that they were not being afforded the same opportunity as a smoker. You know, you might have my department doesn't have anybody that's smoking, so we don't have breaks. We work, and, if they need to go to the bathroom, they go to the bathroom, but we don't take breaks. But there are other departments that have people who smoke, and, one elected official reached out to me and said, that they had smokers, but that their employees had not abused it, that they would go smoke, 1-2 minutes, come back to work and sit down, and that they were very productive, that they felt like that it wasn't an issue in their department. But then I have another department that has like 7 or 8 smokers, and they said that it's created some issues because the employees who don't smoke are now stopping their work at some point during the day and just saying, I'm taking my smoke break. And the department that this is in really can't afford to do that because they're on the front line window servicing customers, and the customers doesn't understand why all of a sudden this person's got a line and this person doesn't, and they're not. So, it's just been a mixed bag. I'm sure that you've gotten some feedback from various forms, but that's just the feedback I've received. So it's really been kind of both ways.
Any more questions? Do we have a motion to adopt?
Mr. Chairman, if I can chime in just for sake of discussion. Sonia and I still have to look at what those drafts are. I think those drafts are relatively new, and I've done a once-over on them. I think it's important if the board wants to give us any feedback before this is taken to the county commission, that now would be a time, or if you want us to present these in a more final form at next month's steering committee meeting, you have the option, I believe Mr. Harris did, to just contact Sonia directly, as long as you all aren't talking amongst each other, not in the outside the public. But if you want to give her your feedback, and she of course wouldn't relay it to any of the members, that she can incorporate that into a better draft to present to you to see if there's a way forward next steering committee meeting. That would be an option as well.
I'll make a nomination, we just wait for the draft and vote on it next month.
Okay. Irvin makes a motion. We got a second? Commissioner Reed? All right, the motion is to delay this for till next meeting for November. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Sonia, make sure every commissioner gets a.
Giving it to them right now.
Okay. Make sure
The
everyone
areas
gets
that are kind of a grayed area are the things that were updates.
All right. Well, gentlemen, when this happened, when we did this last month, I got absolutely a ton of people called, and one of the things that they had brought up to me was obesity. So I had talked to Ed Elam, and Ed has Sharon Tensel here, and she wants to talk about AMATA. And this is an intensive counseling program for people with chronic conditions such as diabetes and obesity. So, Ms. Tensel, come on up.
Mr. Chairman, while they're making their way, for the sake of Mr. Machoto, I think we need to clear up something real quick. Item 5 says on our meeting notice to announce 2 vacancies, not vote for them, to announce them, codes enforcement. I think he was under the impression that that's all we were doing tonight was announcing them, but I went back and looked at last month's meeting, and we announced it last month, so this should have said elect, which we did, so Mr. Machoto, you're elected. Okay? I just want to clear that up, because
Yeah, that's. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, he is elected, and he'll go before the commission to be approved. Are we good on that?
Well, there's another vacancy.
There still is another vacancy.
Yes, we only have one. We don't have any applications, so we'll have to turn that over till next month and open it up for.
So I guess in this meeting, we elected one, and we're announcing a remaining vacancy
Yes,
for next month. Okay.
yes,
All right.
because lack of anybody applying.
Right.
Ms. Tennant, you are going forward. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Sharon Tansel with Cigna, and wanted to talk to you today about the OMADA program, which is our pre-diabetes program through the Cigna platform. I'm happy to go over the full presentation, but I wanted to be respectful of your time and see if you've already reviewed it.
Did everybody get it? I tried to get it out early so everybody could review it. I just wanted to make sure everybody got it. Okay.
If you'd like me to go through the full presentation, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, I'm happy to
I
answer
think it's best that you
questions.
do that.
Okay, great. Everyone should have them on your iPad. On slide 1, this just will basically show you that here in the South, prediabetes is an epidemic. There's about 84 million individuals that have prediabetes today, and many of these individuals don't even know that they have diabetes. 30% of individuals that have prediabetes will move to that next phase, which is diabetes. And just to make things clear, once you've been diagnosed as a diabetic, there's no going back from that diagnosis. When you're in the pre-diabetes phase of things, you can reverse pre-diabetes. The cost of being a diabetic is about $15,000 annually. So obviously our goal is to prevent individuals from becoming diabetic. If you go to the next slide, this just goes into the program itself. Again, this is a program that has been approved by Medicare and the CDC. And again, we have partnered with OMADA, that is our national vendor that administers this program. So this program is available for our Cigna clients and customers. We're on slide 2.
Okay.
And this is an online digital program. So individuals that qualify for the program would basically be sent a scale and have access to a coach. And everything can be done in the convenience of their home. They could do it on their 10-minute break if they wanted to. So it's very it's not a program that's going to take a lot of time, but it's very impactful because it does impact behaviors that obviously would help them from progressing to diabetes. Can you go to the next slide? So this slide just basically identifies those that we want to target. It's for individuals that are 18 years of age or older with a BMI of 25 or higher, 23 or higher for individuals that are of Asian descent, anyone who has been officially diagnosed with prediabetes, high triglycerides, low HDL, high blood pressure, or high blood sugar. And individuals that are committed to the behavior changes that would make them successful to this program. Some of the individuals that would not be a good candidate for this program would be obviously individuals that are already diagnosed with diabetes. Because again, this is to impact individuals that are in that pre-diabetes phase. And Cigna has chronic condition support and coaching programs that are available for those individuals that have been diagnosed with diabetes. Anyone who is pregnant or have other serious health conditions, anyone who's had cancer treatment in the last 6 months, a transplant individual, anyone who's in our catastrophic case management, out on maternity leave, been diagnosed with eating disorders in the last 12 months, or actually individuals could opt out and not be interested in the program. Any questions so far?
What about drug addiction, drug addicts?
I mean, if they have the criteria that meets individuals that could opt in, they would be eligible for the program. Okay, next slide. So again, how this works is if Rutherford County does opt to put this program in place, a communication would go out to invite individuals into an application process. So again, all individuals could apply to be part of the program. They would go through a very short questionnaire, and if they meet criteria, then they would be accepted into the program at that time. Once they're accepted into the program and agree that they want to participate and be active into the program, then they are going to be sent to their home a home package that would include the digital scale, and it's basically it connects automatically. I myself have recently joined the program, been on the program right at 3 months. I've already lost 17 pounds. And it's very easy. Again, they send everything to your home. You get the digital scale. It connects automatically. Basically, all you have to do is pull it out of the box and step on it. And it will walk you through how to go online and connect to your classes and your coaching that you're going to connect with. So again, very, very easy program to be part of. Go to the next slide.
Have to have a smartphone.
It's best to have a smartphone, or you could, I do everything via my phone, or you could actually do it on a computer as well. So this program is an outcome-based program, and Rutherford County will only be responsible for individuals that have outcome, with the exception of the one-time enrollment fee, and that is $235. Once the individual has been identified and accepted into the program, and they receive their scale, then Rutherford County will be billed via a claim from OMATA $235. After that, the only other bills that Rutherford County would receive would be if individuals meet the outcomes, the weight loss outcomes under the program. The first year, for every 1% of weight loss, Rutherford County would receive a claim for $13. This is a 2-year program, so the second year, for every 1% of weight loss, Rutherford County would receive a claim for $8. And again, if weight is not lost, then you're not billed for that. This is considered a preventive claim, so the individual who participates in the program themselves, it's covered at 100%.
So they pay $235. The county pays $235?
Yes.
What if they decide they don't want to do it?
So,
Just out of the money?
yes, because the first $235 is a one-time enrollment fee into the program. So that obviously, if they don't actively participate, the county has already paid for that expense. There would be no additional expenses because everything else is based on the outcome of at least a 1% loss in weight.
And do you have any idea how many people we have that would qualify for this?
So if we go to the next slide.
Sorry.
Good question.
Sorry. We're getting there.
My bad.
No, we're getting
So based on Rutherford County's population, 11,841 individuals, we have done a analysis to indicate that about 412 individuals would be estimated to be eligible and enroll in the program with the first initial deployment.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there'll be more than 412, but based on the history of the program, they anticipate maybe 400.
Right, they anticipate.
Yes, but there'd be more, but the participation, they anticipated to be about 412.
So we're looking at the county paying $100,000 for this based on your population estimate. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Ready?
If we go to the next slide. And this slide just shows you that based on individuals enrolled in the program, that obviously there's going to be cost savings because of the risk reduction for diabetes. The next slide, if we go to the next slide, there's also going to be cost savings to Rutherford County because of the risk reduction for cardiovascular disease and events, such as heart attacks, congestive heart failure, stroke, etc. Go to the next slide. This slide right here will show you the average cost per Cigna participant who enrolls in as part of the OMADA Diabetes Prevention Program. The average cost per participant first year, and this would be cost to Rutherford County, would be $530. And second year, the average cost per participant would be $150. We'll go to the next slide. After the initial cost, both year 1 and year 2 to Rutherford County, basically the average cost savings after you've invested the dollars for the program per individual is going to be anywhere from $424 to $972. And that's per member savings over and above Rutherford County's investment on that $235 initial enrollment fee and the cost of the 1% outcome weight loss, the $13 or the $8 the second year. So what we've seen is about a 2-to-1 return on investment with this program. We can go to the next slide. So,
And that study is with the CDC, is that right?
it is with the CDC and also with, so
It's not just Cigna and OMADA, it's the CDC. Is
correct. This is a program that's approved by both Medicare and the CDC. The Cigna claims analysis, again, we've seen meaningful savings. The average per participant net savings first year is $212. Second year per participant net savings is $424. Again, estimated enrollment in the initial deployment is $412, and the potential 2-year savings total for Rutherford County is listed there at $174,688. What
And that would be
questions?
only for the 2-year.
That would be for the 2-year program, yes.
How long have you guys been doing this?
We started a pilot program about 2.5 years ago in the state of Tennessee, who is our largest account here in Tennessee, was our initial first client during our pilot program. So we have been rolling out the diabetes prevention program for the last 2.5 years. We currently have the state, who is still very active in the program, and have fully rolled that out. Metro government, Metro Nashville Public Schools. So we're in the process of previously when we first started rolling this out, there was a fee for clients to participate. Now we've seen the value in this program. We no longer charge the fee. It's strictly just the claim cost.
When you show those savings up there, it says here that this is from data, a pilot study, 4 national clients who deployed the OMADA program to their eligible populations in 2016. It's saying that is coming, those numbers are coming from this. Have you seen these same numbers in the last 2 years, or do you have enough data to say that those numbers are the same as other studies?
Yes, so with the national accounts, the clients I'm speaking to for Tennessee, we've had for the last 2.5 years. But you're right, we have had national account clients that started an initial pilot with us in 2016. So again, yes, we have seen that same cost savings results with our clients here locally.
Is that why, that's why you reduced the fee, because you saw?
That's correct. That's why Cigna no longer charges our clients a per employee per month fee, because we have seen the cost savings. We've seen those come to fruition, so there's no longer an individual fee tied to this program. Basically, we present it to our clients, and they either opt to roll this program out to their population, and it's the claims that they would be responsible for.
Who owns the equipment?
The individual, it's sent to their home, and they own and keep the equipment.
So if they decide 3 weeks in they're not going to do it anymore, we can't recoup that scale or that equipment from them if we pay for it?
Right, no, unfortunately.
No payroll reduction?
Well, I was just sitting here thinking, I don't know if we might could set up, we have a reimbursement agreement that we might could set up, and anybody who didn't complete it, you could do a pro rata return that would take the monies and put it back into the insurance fund. I mean, you might could if you decided you wanted to do something like that.
I do know the scale after so much time of inactivity, it basically discontinues, so the individual would not be able to utilize the scale.
So based on your data, out of 412 people, how many start the program, how many finish the program?
I don't have that information, but I can get that for you.
You got a guess?
I don't,
Okay.
unfortunately.
So the commissioners understand how we got here is the insurance committee reviewed this. They sent it with a favorable recommendation. It was Commissioner Phillips's recommendation to send it to steering. So that's how we end up here.
Okay. Do we have any more questions?
You have to be on Cigna to do this.
You have to be on the county insurance
Yes.
plan.
And just another point, that kind of brings me to another point that I want to make. And, not everyone would qualify for this program because not everyone is going to have the risk of prediabetes. But there may be individuals that want to lose weight, but still not be in a prediabetes category. We do have another program that would be available for those individuals through our lifestyle management programs, which would include a weight loss program, a stress program, and a tobacco cessation program. So there is something that is available for individuals that may not qualify for this program, but still would like to lose weight. And that program is free of charge. If they're interested in that program, they can go through telephonically and work with the coach. They would get a portion control plate. So there's lots of things that individuals who just want to focus on weight loss, but maybe not have prediabetes, that's available. And then, of course, obviously anyone who is already at a diabetic diagnosis, we have our chronic condition support that they would be able to work with the coach as well.
Anybody else?
I would assume this would go to budget, or does it go to the full commission?
Well, with
If-
it
if
being
there's
money,
a
it would go to
motion.
budget.
Okay.
So do I have a motion to favorable recommendation to budget? Commissioner
Make a
Urban,
favorable recommendation, send it to budget.
do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Rather. All right, all those in favor?
Chairman,
Sir, hold on.
before we send this on like this, I would like to just say, I understand what you're doing, understand the possibilities of what we could do here. Everything you've mentioned there not only deals with diabetes, but it also deals with other illnesses that affect our employees. I like the idea of the heart attack and things of this too, so you're not just dealing with one program and whatever we're doing there, so that's a good idea. I come from a family that I had a brother and sister that were both diabetics. They started out that way in juvenile. Both of them come down with it within 2 weeks of each other, but they went through that all their life. And both of them passed away fairly early, and they're like one at 54 and the other one at 65. But basically their health was affected by the diabetes. And I think if people understand what the diabetes can do to their lives and how it can affect them, because I know, I mean, I have a physical every year, and that's one thing I'm checked for, to make sure I'm not into that situation. So I think for our employees, this could be a very important program that we look at. So this is just something I wanted to say in this. I think it's something we do look at, and I think, you know, you're talking about, somebody's talking about the fact that these other programs, you know, at no cost. This is a cost to the county, not a cost to the employee.
That's right.
This is something that's being done to help the employee. We were talking about smoking a while ago. I think all this that was brought up earlier last month about smoking, we're not looking at anything to harm, we're looking at things to help. And I think this right here is, I appreciate the insurance committee bringing this forward to us.
Is there any more discussion? Mike, Cole?
I couldn't agree more with what Commissioner Reed just said. I like the fact that this says preventative pre-diabetes training, testing, and support. Because like I said earlier, once you venture over into type 2 diabetes, there's no going back. And then the cost really comes into the county because, as we know, the rates are based on the claims paid out. And I am diabetic, type 2. I have a 16-year-old type 1. And it's almost like the opioids. You don't know how to fix your life until it's in your life. So I'm for it because I like the fact that this is trying to get ahead of it. You're trying to keep people. You're trying to get them in a lifestyle to keep them from venturing over into a full-blown diabetic, which raises everybody's cost.
Well, and I can advocate this program because, again, I'm on it myself. And I went out and asked my team to go out and try and qualify for the program. And 5 of my team members also are on the program. And I was just telling Ed, I mean, the program is very easy. It gives you a lot of meaningful, good information, you know, around diet, around physical activity, around everyday things that you can implement in your life that will basically, again, help you from progressing to that diabetic diagnosis. And like I told Ed, having that scale and having to step on that scale and know that your coach is going to see your weight every day, and if you don't step on it, I get an email or a text message from my coach that says, "Hey, did you forget to weigh today?" And I mean, I was just telling Ed, you know, you pass by Chick-fil-A and you pass by a lot of these other things because you know you're going to step on this scale.
I'd be afraid they have a GPS, and when I pulled into Dunkin' Donuts, all of a sudden I'm getting a call.
I would like, seriously, I would like to see if there's an option if you know, we do expend however much it was, and 2 weeks into it, people are like, oh, I'm not doing this. That's,
I mean, a reimbursement agreement's not hard.
But that was one of the things we looked at, is to look back at it maybe a year or so many months later and see how many people actually got in the program, what's the success of the program, and revisit it 6 months later. And you know, something I want to point out, and one of the reasons why we're here and trying to be transparent with this is that, you know, this program, along with MedPoint, you know, people go to MedPoint and they walk away without paying anything because, you know, that's the service. But all of this billing goes back into the health insurance fund for our benefits fund for the employees. So, you know, there is a cost to this, and eventually, you know, if this doesn't pay for itself, then you look at, you know, premiums increase. But you hope if it catches on and does well over time, you would see at least hold those premiums or maybe lower those premiums if possible, or just try to keep them from building as rapidly as they are. we're really trying to, the office and the insurance committee, we're really trying to work more on wellness and trying to get some programs out there where people live a healthier lifestyle and are able to, and at the same time, it's a win-win because it reduces your claims.
This is the #1 program that we are recommending. So my team is responsible for going out to our clients and building out their wellness programs and making recommendations. And I would say probably 99% of every recommendation or every program that we're building out, we're recommending this OMATA program.
Sonia?
I was curious, and you may have said this in the insurance meeting, but I had to leave early that day. You have to be 18 years of age. Is there, why?
So it's just because individuals that are of that age tend to be more responsible, and also individuals that are under that age, it's going to be more about their parent monitoring and taking, living those lifestyles. But again, we have programs that individuals who aren't 18 years of age that want to focus on weight, they could participate in a lifestyle management program with Cigna.
I was just thinking as a parent, it'd be nice sometimes, for, maybe that's good for all parents, if somebody else called my kid instead of me. You know what I mean? Sometimes they're a little more receptive to positive feedback than they are from a parent. So that was what I was saying. Because typically, I would guess that children, from our claim standpoint, you don't have as much claims history with children. So if you had a child that maybe was borderline or had some issues like that, I was thinking that it might be, to Commissioner Rather's point, helping a child before they get to that point. So that was why I was just asking what the purpose was, if it was to help assist with claims data and change behaviors. It's better to get them when they're young than it is to wait till they're my age and try to change a habit.
Absolutely. So that's good feedback. I'll take that back.
Is there any more discussion?
So will this reimbursement agreement be a deterrent for people signing up?
I wouldn't think so. It just, in my viewpoint, it would be more of, well, I would like to think not, but possibly, but I would like to think that it would be an encouragement to finish instead of to not participate. And sometimes when you get some teeth in the game, if it's too easy, some people say, well, if I don't like it, I don't have to do it. But if you put a little teeth in the game, then they might be more receptive to completing the program. If you knew you was going to have to pay some money out, they might be more receptive to completing it. Excuse me, I can't get it out. So.
And another opportunity, I know that, like Ed said, Rutherford County is really working on their wellness program, and it's come a long way, and I myself am very proud of the program. I manage the team, Chuck and Lee, they report to me, so I'm proud of everything they've done here at Rutherford County. But you also have our Motivate Me incentive program, and if this is a program that you put in place at some point in time, you could build an incentive around this to motivate individuals as well.
Any more discussion? We have a motion to send to budget. I am asking for a roll call on this. Vote.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Kush?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
And Chairman Harris.
No. All right, it passes. We'll be going to the budget. Thank
Right,
you,
thank
Ms.
you.
Stoltz. I appreciate you. Next on our agenda is background for notaries. I gave a handout. Commissioner Gammon came to me and asked me if he could put this on the agenda. He wanted to talk about it. I gave you all in your mailbox Tennessee law on notaries. Highlight that for you so you can be able to look at that. Commissioner Gammon?
Commissioners, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Well, our last county meeting last month, it just, every time it kind of gets to me, we're approving this list of notaries. Granted, majority of them are legit and everything. Commissioner McIndoe may recall back in, when I was commissioner back in 98, 99, we had, it just came to our attention, somebody just told us that one of the applicants was a felon. So we checked it out, and they were. And I just found out this last meeting that I was asking questions, found out we don't do background checks on our notaries. And I'm really uncomfortable approving a huge list, not knowing anything about, with my name being one that approves all these notaries. I mean, all it takes is one to notarize something that's illegal or falsify information. And we're voting those folks in. Like, again, though, I want to stress, I know the majority of our notaries are really good, law-abiding citizens. And I just wanted to bring it to the, I didn't realize, I thought we took care of this back in 98 or 99. I assumed it was, background checks were done.
Well, the one thing that I know, of course, Commissioner Stevens would know too. The thing with notaries is, it's state. So even if we wanted to give background checks, Commissioner, we wouldn't be able to do that. And the reason is because the notary, even though he's in Rutherford County, he can do it for all of the state. So, am I right on this, Mayor?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Several years ago, you could, when you got your notary, it was just strictly for Rutherford County, and then the state approved that several years ago to where once you became a notary, then you could notarize things in Davidson County or Knox County or Shelby County. You were, at that point in time, you were a notary at large. You used to be a notary and then notary at large. Then the state and its wisdom came back and said you're a notary at large anywhere in the state. Okay, so in order to require a background check, you would have to. Who's going to pay for the cost of the background check? Would that come back to the county, or does it go to the state? Which is
that crossed my mind,
yeah.
And I did ask that question too. Background check, I think I was told like $13 for a background check. That's not right.
Not a good one.
Well, yeah, not a good.
But if they went to somewhere, there's some places here in town, well, the one that the county uses is state of Tennessee and a FBI background check. It's nationwide. And it'd be about $40 for an individual. They could go somewhere to the L1 services, which is over there. They could pay for it themselves, I guess is what I'm trying to say, to get that testing done. But if you did something like that, it needs to be by a rep. You can't just say go out and get your own, because they might go online and get one for $10 and it wouldn't be the same. I mean, that's not going to give you the same information as possibly.
so. When it's approved, then you go into an insurance agency and take out a bond. You have to take out a bond so that the bond is approved and it covers. And at that point in time, usually the bond runs anywhere from $35 to $50 for a 4-year period of time. And the notary can also apply and get errors and omissions insurance on top of that for another $30, $40. The problem would be, number one is you get kickback from like at banks and other businesses. They pay for their employees to have a notary as a convenience for customers who come in. And we'll notarize that for you for whatever. But in order to pass a bill, the steps would be, the steering committee would have to pass it, have to go to full commission, and then you would have to send it down to the legislature to reverse what's already in the code. And there's an organization for code, which usually your trustee, your clerk, register of deeds, they all belong to that organization, and the notaries would come under that, and you would get pushback from all over the state. The chances of reversing what's already in the code would be a difficult task.
It just got to me that we were approving them, and we got one or two that.
Well, I wanted to also address that. And Tennessee law, in one of the subsections, it says, under penalty of perjury, this notary should never have been found by a court or state or any other state to have been engaged in unauthorized practice of law. So if that person that we're talking about, and they lie on this, then they're open for criminal charges. So that's one of the things that is, so. But like I said, we can't, this can't be with a private act, this is with the state commissioner, and I mean, we have a, with our legislators coming up, I would encourage you to have one of them. I'd be more than glad to let you ask that question.
Okay.
Is there any more?
I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you for coming.
when you go to get your surety bond, do those people not have skin in the game to do a background check?
No.
No?
It's like any insurance policy.
Well, there's, you know, what the chairman just read to you, that's already in the code. Basically, the notary is doing nothing more, not about what is contained in the document. It's strictly that person who's named on that document actually signed it.
Yeah, I want to recognize Rick. Did you want to say something, Rick?
Please.
He's representing county clerk.
So sorry, the clerk, Lisa Kroll, couldn't be here tonight. She's away. But having said that, she did ask me to speak to your question and what brought this to you all's attention. Number one, I was counting the number of notaries that are in here tonight. Sonia and her entire staff is. I know that Commissioner Stevens is. I am. You're not. Are you not? You may be the only attorney in town who's not.
Probably so. I've got somebody in the office
It's
who
the
can.
felony behind it.
And that's a great point. I mean, in your line of work, no, it's not. Sometimes it crosses
Yep.
some lines.
Always checking for a driver's license.
That's right. So having said that, I do want to encourage you all to say that the commissioner is correct. It happens occasionally. But one of the most important ingredients in this entire process, Mayor, is the fact that this body, that is to say the county commission, gets to elect these guys, these notaries. You're placed upon your table right in front of you. And if you should not feel comfortable with any one of those candidates, you can approach me, the clerk, anybody. We can remove that. It's just a list. Yes, they would like to be elected in time for their renewal date to not expire. That's true. But you can pull them off. You know that. It's an election. So, and there are places, well, there are things in place that make certain that any one of us here in this room can report to the Attorney General anytime we feel uncomfortable with a notary. There are things already in place, given the rules that you've talked about and the laws that you've talked about, ready to make certain that these notaries that have been elected can be held accountable, period. But back to my point about you guys, you're the front line of defense. No, it is probably out of the question for us to pay for background checks. We do about 105 to sometimes 150 applications a month. Do the math. Even if it was the inexpensive one, it just wouldn't be feasible. Having said that, that notary applicant, when they actually sign just the basic application, they're swearing that they answer the questions, and they're swearing that they are who they say they are, and that they are not felons. And so they are the ones that are going to be ultimately held accountable should there be a bad egg. And we want to make certain that when they come to us with their bond in place, they've already told the bonding company that they're swearing to this. Then they come to us and then they swear to us that they're not going to do it. What more can you ask someone, really? I love the idea, the aspect, or the prospect of having a background check in place. But really, you're the background check. At a time when we were much smaller, the county commission knew most everybody in the county. That's true.
It's true.
And so if someone came to us, and the list was probably 10 people or less, you knew them. You just knew them. And you knew whether they were a banker, a lawyer, a baker, whatever.
Candlestick maker.
That's the one I couldn't remember. Steve, you're supposed to prompt me on that. Seriously, that was a critical time way back then. Now it can't be done. And so, with that in mind, please know that you can still trust the system. In my humble estimation, the clerk trusts the system. The state of Tennessee trusts the system. Those notaries are critical to doing business each and every day in some shape, form, or fashion, be it banking, law, in the doctor's office, there's notaries. So the system has its own checks and balances. You're part of those checks and balances. I'm not trying to put anything on you, but the fact is, you can do something right then and there to make sure that if someone's a bad egg, they can be pulled off. They can be. Until we have such time as we can check it out. And if it needs to be checked out, we'll go straight to the source and say, okay, what's this all about? We'll tell the state, okay, we've got someone here who's applied. Maybe this is not the person they say they are. So there you go. But I just want you to be encouraged that it's not all bad. And Mr. Gammon is correct. It has happened. It's happened. This is the second time I've heard of it since I've been doing this for 16 years. And so it's still a pretty good system. It's the only one we got.
Commissioner?
Is the copy of the names, is it available before?
Yes.
The county commission meeting?
Yeah, we actually, that's a good question. We track it all throughout the month, and then we have a cutoff date. It's really just the night before you all meet. So I have a full list. We have an ongoing list, Commissioner, but we will have a full list the night before, but we know who's in the basket. We know who's in the hopper. We know how many people we have. And, you know, at this point, I know most all of them, because the last thing I tell them when they give me their applications, I'll see you in 4 years, you know. And sure enough, here they come. We've had notaries up until 99 years old. How about that? So there you have it.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, well done.
All right, let's get to our next agenda. Duties of Chairman Pro Tem. This was introduced to us in the last meeting with Commissioner Phillips. And we moved it off until this month for discussion. So I asked everybody if we could gather what you think, and let's go over these. And I really want to hear what everybody's got to say on them. I really want to it's kind of like it's a whole bunch of things right here. So I want to hear if anybody has any objections to any of these.
The first one seems impossible.
All right. Go ahead, Commissioner Cooch.
Oh, well, it's, I think if I understand it right, it says the ex officio member on each commission meeting, that the chairman pro tem will fill absences as needed, fill vacancy in case of long-term illness or other openings such as resignation, etc. Are you saying there that in a meeting such as ours tonight, if there's one of us not going to be here, that the
No, sir.
chairman pro tem would fill in?
No, sir, not at all. What he's saying is, like when Commissioner Brad Turner stepped down and we had an opening in steering, then he's saying that the pro tem will take in and take his spot.
Okay. Okay.
So no, it has nothing to do with monthly, like if someone's not here, it has
Gotcha.
nothing to do with that.
All right.
So I'm gonna go each one of these, each one. Is there any more on this? All right, we'll go to the next one. Review commission agenda presented by chairman.
No problem there.
Is everybody good with that one?
Yep, check.
I'm a no on that. Reason why is that if he has to review the agenda, that means he has to be available. And that could also put it, situation where chairman is now waiting on him. So that's how I feel on that one. Review commission minutes and present to commission. I mean, he's doing that now. Everybody good to go to the next one? All right. Receive committee assignment request forms. Present a recommendation for committee assignments to steering for consideration. Anybody want to discuss that? I'm a no on that. I think it's the system we got right now is fine. If anybody wants to address that. I mean, I don't even give the, steering committee doesn't even let the chairman of the commission do that. So I don't see why we'd let a pro temp do that. Next one is call newly elected appointed committees to order and elect a chair and vice chair. Any discussion on that?
I think at our last time we did this, I think we sort of took care of that. And I can't see where we would change it. I mean, we had all that discussion. That's pretty much back and forth, and I think the way that it worked at our last, the way that the chair and vice chairmen were selected and the way that we did it, I think it worked fine. I can't see why we would do it any differently.
I agree. The last one is discuss with county mayor, commission chair, and county attorney, all topics scheduled for executive session.
I don't see how that changes anything one way or the other.
No. Well, as steering committee, we can adopt these and send them to the commission. So is there a motion for that?
Chairman, may I chime in? Wasn't asked, but, well, I guess you did ask. If anybody had any comments about the first item? I've been thinking about that since this was sent. I'm not sure that we can do that from a legal perspective. I don't have it in front of me, but I think TCA specifies how vacancies of committees and of county commissions are done. Now, it may not speak specifically at the committee level, but I know it does speak expressly what has to happen to fill a vacancy of a county commission seat. And when you're filling a vacancy of a county commission seat, you're also impliedly filling one of these seats on one of these standing committees. So TCA would probably control there, and I don't think we could alter that by our local rules. Now, if you wanted to make the chairman pro tem an ex officio member, similar to how the mayor, to where he can be present at the meeting if he so desires, and he doesn't have a vote, that's totally different. I mean, that kind of happens already as a matter of practice. County commissioners will show up at various standing committees when there are matters of interest to them. That's just my 2 cents. Then on the last one with the county mayor and the county attorney, oftentimes if there's matters that might get brought up at an executive session, I oftentimes don't just have discussions with the mayor, but I have attorney-client privilege discussions with various county commissioners about the case as well already.
Any more discussion on this? Do we have a motion to send this to the county commission? All right, it's off the table. Next on our agenda is the infrastructure report. I'll call on Commissioner Cush.
Okay. We've had one meeting. We have our second one October 15th at 11:30 in this very room. That meeting will consist of a couple of developers have invited to get their input, which would be very beneficial. We're making some real headway. We've got uncovered some neat ideas and have some options that we'll be pitching to the full commission in November. So stay tuned. But we're getting in the weeds and finding out some cool stuff. So stay tuned.
So Commissioner Cush, you met with some people from Williamson County?
Yes, we did. Williamson County has a very aggressive assessment, a series of assessments, but they don't fall under the Powers Act like we do. But we discussed some things on their assessment program and also their traffic shed ideas that they've put into play. We've bounced those ideas off of them. And during that meeting, that was a day or two when Wilson County also added approximately $3,000 or $4,000 assessment fee on new roofs to Wilson County also does not follow the Powers Act. So everybody around us is adding fees but us, because we're the only one that follows the Powers Act. So we're at a disadvantage all the way around. But we're trying to get the developers to get on board and to understand the predicament we're in. And the fact that Williamson County has just added more fees is going to bring more builders to us, because we're the cheapest place in town to build. So it's just going to add more to the problem of our failing infrastructure. So
Does your committee going to call on to the state legislators and try to get them to?
we will bring our suggestions to the full commission hopefully in November, and then we'll make that decision as a full body as to what to do. With the mayor's help, I'm sure.
Is there any more, Mike? You good?
I'm good.
Any questions?
Yeah,
Commissioner Reed?
did you get all the committee members?
No, we did not, and that's not, we don't need to fill it. We're good with what we have, but we have Phil Dodd, we have Jim Aberwater from planning, we have Paul Johnson from the road board, or from budget, whichever way you want to pull from, and myself. And then we have other select volunteers. But those are the 4 official members. We had no other people step up or send forms in, so we're good to go with those 4.
Mike, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Jim Aberwater, is he a builder? He's a builder or
He's a
developer,
builder. He's
isn't
also on the planning commission.
he? Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
from building.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's a custom home builder. He doesn't really participate anymore.
But he's your planning commission?
Yes, sir. He's
Okay.
a planning representative.
Well, I suggest you don't have any voting anyway, so.
No, we're not
Okay.
voting on anything.
All right, it's just anybody got any questions from Mr. Cush? Thank you, Mike, I appreciate it, Mr. Cush. All right, next on the agenda is our litigation. It is on your iPad. Does anybody have any questions? None? All right, let's move on to other business. Is there any other business?
It's only 3 pages. It's barely even 3 pages.
I got the font down really
It's 2.
small.
It's
so-
2 pages and 2 lines.
I noticed that today when I.
Yeah, but read them.
But read them.
Yeah, but read them.
Okay, all right.
Maybe 3 pages, but it looks like 3 big.
Yeah, I see.
3 billion.
Yeah, I see.
It ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
We've seen that in the paper today. Okay. You got any questions on the litigation? None? All right, next item, any other business? Since there is any other business, this meeting is adjourned.